Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Silver Silk and More channel. It is time to get warm, cozy, and bubbly with today's project. We are going to be making the champagne toast necklace, which is absolutely stunning, worn either by itself or you could wear it in layers like you would fall attire, if you will. Now, speaking of fall attire, we're going to be working with hollow mesh today, which is brilliant. Just the way that it fits over the beads, it's like wearing a warm, cozy sweater for your beads. And what could be better than that? So for this class, we're going to be learning how to work with hollow mesh. We are going to be learning how to professionally finish the ends so that you have a completed design head to toe. And we'll also be talking about a complimentary necklace in case you do want to layer it. But real quick, if you enjoy the content on this channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a giant thumbs up and to share it with your community and friends out there that enjoy jewelry making. All of that stuff is so important and it is keeping the creative channel growing bigger and bigger. And it's especially great for Silver Silk, which is basically just a self-owned company, and I do everything behind the scenes, including making the product, which I'm so excited to talk to you guys with the hollow mesh. And so let me go ahead and flash over to the actually finished design piece here while I do a switcheroo with my camera. And we're just going to dive right in, get into our tools and materials. So first, we'll need a pair of cutters. I use a company called Lindstrom, and I use these to cut through a lot of things that I probably shouldn't, but I do anyways because they are a super strong, very sharp pair of pliers. And this is going to be great for cutting through the silver silk, as well as the beading wire that we will use later on. We'll need a pair of chain nose pliers. I use a company called Weber's. Very, very cool company and amazing products, tools specifically. I've also got a pair of round nose pliers. I don't think I'll actually be using them today, but I kind of like to have them on hand just in case, because it's like having another spare hand in case I need to reach into a little tight spot. And then finally, you will need a pair of crimp pliers. I'm going to be using the Zoron crimpers. There are so many different types of crimp pliers out there, and it really truly is your preference, I would think, because of the type of beading wire that we're going to be using specifically today. I would recommend using either the blue-handled ones or the Zoron ones and not the magical crimpers, as they require a little bit of a thicker beading cord, beading wire to make them crimp properly. So today we're just going to be making a simple folded crimp, and I'll show you guys how to do that pretty easily. All right, let's get into our materials for this design. So we are going to be using some 4mm fire polish beads that look like this. Are these not sparkly or what? Now, they really do remind me of champagne, and so the name just could not be any more on brand here for this. This is absolutely a beautiful check glass finish with the gold and the clear kind of working with each other. And so you'll see how well it layers, in fact, with the mesh as we talk about it here in a second. And speaking of, actually, we're going to talk about it right now. The Silver Silk Hollow Mesh. Now, I wouldn't have ever thought that like a bright orange and a yellow would pair well together, but and not scream at you, right? Because the colors are kind of loud. But that's the beauty of hollow mesh. When you fill it with a type of color or bead or something that has a different finish or polish, it really transforms into something else completely. You'd almost even think that this is some sort of a textile that you lay over something to get a whole different color or finish out of it. But there it is together. And of course, you've seen the necklace example. But let's talk a little bit about hollow mesh. I carry up to 6 lines of silver silk. And this is just one of the different types of lines that I have, which is again called hollow mesh, which basically is what it says. It is a hollow mesh cording or tubing, I guess, completely hollow. made with needles that stitch around a singular piece of wire into this amazing, like heavily detailed, but still flexible and very supple knitted wire chain. And if you are wanting to really ooh and ah, let me blow your mind with this. Here is the actual little apparatus that I use to stitch this together. These needles basically zoom around and it stitches the wire into that beautiful chain that you see here. Pretty mind blowing, isn't it? Now, I can't show you the rest of the machine, unfortunately. It is too large, but I did want to show you that particular little instrument um, that makes this cording. And the inside is about 4.5 to 5 millimeters, give or take. You can always expand it with a knitting needle if you're wanting to get like bigger beads in there. Or you could even draw it down with either a draw plate or a smaller knitting needle and just stretching it out. I recommend that you kind of figure out what sort of beads and stuff you want to fill in first and then, work backwards from there. In this case, we're just going to be using the check glass that's 4 millimeter size. And so we don't really need to expand the chain in this particular circumstance because these will fit in quite nicely into that inner diameter there. The color that I'm using specifically is called bronze. And right now I've got about just over 20 colors to choose from. And so you can go real crazy and buy all of the different check glass finishes and all of the different silver silks and really just go to town on these different color combinations and layer these designs up together because that's, I think, the most spectacular part of this whole project. So I'll quit talking about that because I can go on and on about silver but I do want to get through the list here. We've got the cord ends and other findings. So here are the cord ends. As you could see that they have that knitted wire pattern on them. And these cord ends were specifically designed for the hollow mesh as well. So that inner diameter is going to match pretty well the diameter of the chain whenever it's all kind of pushed in together. And it's got a little hole at the top so you can pass in craft wire or beading wire or just whatever you want to, even leather cord in some circumstances. And of course, it has that SS engraving in it for you knowing that it comes from SilverSilk, which really it's actually important because all of my findings have 5 layers of plating on them, and I've got 6 different colors. But this plating technology, it's just it's unmatched. I don't know how else to describe it. It's unmatched in the industry. These take a very long time, if never, to tarnish, and I'm just always blown away by just how you guys craft with it, and always just elevating the entire um, quality of silver silk. And I do that through all of my findings, including the toggle clasp, as well as the jump rings, which don't have the SS stamp on it, but they do have the same exact plating technology on it. So you're also getting matching color across the board with the different findings. All right, let's talk about beading wire because you will actually need fine beading wire. I'm using Softflex Company, one of my favorite companies in the world, and they make an incredible beading wire. And the reason that we're using fine today is that the check glass beads have a smaller hole than I would have anticipated, actually. So you could probably get medium-sized beading wire. I would recommend the fine because we're going to be passing back through the actual little beads twice with the beading wire since we're going to be crimping it. And so the fine just allows it to be a lot easier and smoother to do that. Again, Softflex beading wire. If you haven't grabbed the fine size, I'd recommend it. And we will also need some crimp tubes. And I picked out a copper color. You can go with the gold colorway if you want to. I particularly wanted to use copper today. And I love these. They're seamless. They've got a thick wall. also are tarnish resistant from Softlex Company. They make an incredible crimp tube. So if you're going to grab the wire, grab the crimp tubes. All right, so that is all for the example that I'm going to show you here for this design. All those ingredients are going to be used to create this, and I'm going to show you a very specific tip on how to get this all nice and packaged out into the cord end there in a little bit. But if you are in the mood to make a secondary strand to go with your design, these are some of the ingredients that you will need. You will need 2 grams of seed beads in size 8. This is just a gold-plated color. It matched beautifully. It's kind of a warm gold. So when you're thinking about gold tones, um, just make sure that across the board, you're either going with that lighter champagne color, or if you're, trying to kind of go with a warm gold finish, that might contrast a little bit with that yellowish gold color. So this one tends to be a more warmer gold, which actually complements that bronze color palette that's, the knitted wire essentially, rather than being more of a cold, gold color of orange. And this is going to be showing more than it would, for example, the beads that I showed you, which are going to be covered up later. This is what I'm talking about. This is like that yellow gold, but we are going to cover it with warmer colored hollow mesh, which sort of tones down that color. We're not covering anything with the seed beads. They're going to be left exposed. And so you want your seed beads to be complementary to the design. Let's see. We've got some beading wire, which I just showed you earlier. We'll need some of that. Oh, the check glass. 6mm fire polish. Now check out this color. Is that not wild? Or what? It is wild. I think it's wild. I didn't used to be, believe it or not, a huge fan of purple, but I've come to love it. It's the brand color. It has so much meaning behind it. And it's sort of grown on me as a pure, like, seasonal color. And if I see this with turquoise, if I see it with orange, if I see it with certain colors, it just gets me going in the best way. It gets me warm and bubbly, if you will. And so I'm delighted that this was matched to the necklace that we're going to be making today. So I recommend having some of these out. And that's sort of again, the fun part is to go through your bead stash and pick out things that you normally wouldn't, or stuff that you just might have that you haven't been able to use yet. And match it to the SilverSilk Hollow Mesh. All right, and then lastly, you will need some findings. Now, this is revolutionary because for those of you who have kept up with my tutorials, you know that clasps are not on my wheelhouse. It's not that I hate clasps, it's just that I'm never prepared and don't have them on hand. This tutorial, I think y'all are very lucky because I do have them on hand. But you'll need a couple jump rings and, of course, a lobster claw. Again, the lobster claw and the jump rings are from the SilverSilk Findings collection, which means that they have the same plating. And so I recommend whenever you are looking for other findings and stuff out there, just keep aware that the colors from different companies might vary a little bit. And mine, if you buy them within the actual store, they're going to be all consistently plated the same. All right, now that I've done all of my thorough explanation of the materials, you can always skip past that if you're watching the replay. Let's get into the instructions and let's put this baby together. The first thing is that we want to measure out the length of our hollow mesh, or you could work with this in a couple different ways. You could either measure the hollow mesh out first, or you can pre-string, which is what I did, your beads onto your fine-sized soft flex beading wire in the size of the necklace that you want. Now, I have got a 21-inch necklace that I want to put together. So I went ahead and zoomed through the whole, stringing beads on here and just got right down to it to where we could just cut the hollow mesh once we measured up to this. So I'm just going to kind of work this all around, and I'm going to match it to the length of my beaded necklace here. So again, let's just, for the sake of having all this on camera, sometimes a little difficult to do, especially with the longer necklaces, you guys know. Um, okay, I'm gonna cut it about right there. Now, here's how to cut this stuff because you don't want to go down and just chomp it all off. Why? Because it's gonna be smashed on one end, and you're not gonna be able to get that beaded segment through it. So what I recommend doing is just taking it one knit at a time and just go around and around the diameter of the chain, chopping it off one knit at a time. And this will help preserve your round shape without smashing it flat. And now you're pretty much ready to stuff it. So there is a secret to stuffing that's, I think, hopefully going to blow your minds if you haven't learned it already, because this tip is going to be very helpful whenever you go to string this. Now, if you just go and try and string this all the way through, you could see that the knits are not allowing that wire to pass through easily. Okay, it wants to go in every single hole of the knitted part, and boy, can that get annoying. So, what I'm going to do is grab a crimp. I'm going to string that crimp through the wire, and I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little loop here. The only thing I'm not going to do is crimp it. The reason for this is that that little dull loop will pass through my chain without going through any of the knits. Okay, just like that. Pretty easy, pretty spiffy if I do say so myself. And all you do at this point is you just go right through with your beads. And in fact, I'm going to just advance this to the next part here because that's exactly what we're doing. And by the way, just look at this deliciousness. Now, you could see some of that yellow gold went away and was replaced by a warmer tone because those colors are starting to vibrate off of each other. Now, here's the before and the after. Pretty awesome, isn't it? Super reflective, that metallic sheen right over those faceted beads. Just talk about a chef's kiss. So I'm just gonna go all the way down, just working this. It's kind of fun to see it actually like appear on this other side. That's just me being real nerdy and watching this like a choo-choo train kind of going through a tunnel. Um, and I'm just gonna get down here to the other side here. Now, there are a couple ways that you can finish the ends here. And more importantly, what I'm going to do is make sure that once my end comes up on this other side, I'm going to release it off the crimp and I'm going to apply that crimp, excuse me, the bead stopper right back on. Um, Again, couple of methods. So the first method that I'm about to show you is that you can actually go through and just kind of press it over the beads nice and tight so that it's not going to escape or slip down over the beads when you're wearing it. And so the second way to do this is that if you're really wanting some extra security, you can actually go through the knits a couple times, not a whole lot, just enough to kind of like really hold it at the top there. Okay, I just went through a couple of the knits and then just scooch your beads right on down as best as you can. And at that point, that's when I'm going to start kind of pressing this together. And it's going to bundle up quite nicely. It'll taper, in fact, and also it really won't slip down because your beading wire did go through those knits, and it's going to hold it nice and anchored in place. So why don't we go ahead and do that to the other side here? Oh my gosh. This feels, by the way, I just have to hold this up. This feels so luxurious. It's so wavy and fluid and just all the things, right? All right. So again, let's do that one more time. We're going to go through a couple of the knits here, and you could be right on the edge, and that is perfectly okay. Hopefully I cut this to the right size. I think I'm going to have a little bit of extra slack there, but that's okay because it'll just be extra fluid. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pinch it there at the top like so. Nice and packaged and bundled together, as you can see. What's nice is that my beads won't fall out at this point either, which is really what I don't want happening live on camera. All right, let's get our copper findings. And you know what? In fact, here's what's happening. I thought that this was going to be like pretty fluid, but I'm getting like a real a real big gap there. So it's for my OCD, you guys, I'm just gonna cut this right off and trim it up a little bit. Definitely overestimated the amount of silver silk, which is a good thing because you can always cut off, but you cannot add on. Remember that tip. I feel like that's like the first thing that we learned in crafting anyway, though, right? Or sewing. Um, There we go. Okay. Slight adjustment, just going with the flow here. All right. So now I'm going to attach my end cap. I'm just going to string that right into the hole there. And you could work with both sides at once if you want to. And it just slips right into that end cap quite lovely. Okay. You might have a few wire fuzzies on your table. Just kind of dust those right off. I call them wire fuzzies. They're just little wire shards or whatever splinters that kind of occur whenever you cut silver silk. And that's just the way because it's knitted with wire, of course, right? So let's get some stuff at the end. Here's the fun part now. You can actually, if you want to, which I guess I don't really have any extra beads out at the moment, you could add on a few extra beads here at the ends to embellish. Always a fun thing. If you're making a bracelet, in fact, so we could pretend like this is like a half C or shorter, right? Or even a wrap bracelet. Oh my gosh, now I'm completely derailing into other designs that I shouldn't be, but maybe we want to make a wrap bracelet and add some extra beads on because that's what we do, right? Embellishing is always fun. I'm sorry, but it is. You can always add on extra beads and kind of extend out your bracelet or necklace if you want to, and then put on your clasp. In this case, I think I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. Perhaps it will be a wrap bracelet for somebody. I don't know. But I am just going to go ahead and crimp on a jump ring as such. And in fact, we can move into our illustration for this next step, which is to pass it through the end cap as efficiently as you can. There we go. Okay, as such. And you want to make sure that you have about a 2 millimeter loop within your Softflex wire because that'll allow your jump ring and your toggle to move around. And I guess the word of today is fluid. You really want your design to be nice and fluid and not stiff, especially where hollow mesh is concerned, because A, it won't feel good whenever you're wearing it, and B, it won't lay correctly. So just try and keep it nice and, fluid, but not super loose to the point to where it's going to have large gaps, as I was sort of dealing with earlier. Okay, I'm just going to go in with my Xeron crimpers and make a folded crimp as such. And then once you're done doing that, you can, of course, go back through and clip your extra wire with your cutters. Such. Easy peasy. Okay, let's do that again for the second side. Okay, string on your crimp, string on your jump ring, go back through the cap, and come out just wherever. You don't even have to be precise. It's all going to be hidden in the cap anyway. You do want to make sure that your design is nice and tight at least, but just go ahead and come out through the cap as you would. It's gonna clip off anyways. We're gonna cut that right off. All right, let's go in and crimp our design here, or crimp our bead to make our design. Perfect. Okay, there we are. And finally, we can cut this. And the last step here is really to attach our clasp. So I'm going to go in with my chain nose pliers, open up my jump ring, string on one side, close, and do the same with the other. And that's basically the gist of the hollow mesh portion of today's necklace. Very easy. It's nice to not overcomplicate a design with too many techniques because really, this is one of those pieces that the color just speaks for itself, right? And that's really sometimes just what it takes to make an outfit work. But should you want extra, because we've always got options here at SilverSilk, you can always layer it again with another complementary design. So we've got those beautiful warm gold seed beads that we strung onto some soft flex wire and crimped the ends and attached our findings, our jump rings, and our lobster claw clasp. But just look at this color combination. Now, purple and orange are complementary colors, so they just work so well together. I'm sorry that this is like the worst way to present this. But we kind of finished and assessed step 6 and step 7. So in fact, I'm just going to go straight back into this full view and show you guys what that really looks like in real life. And pictures are one thing, but seeing it in real life is another. And now I've got like 2 pieces that are silver silk. Beautiful. So, my friends, that is today's design. Let me flash that picture for you one more time. And I want to thank you for joining me in today's project, which I hope you will leave here feeling warm and bubbly, because I know I do. Puts me in the mood for champagne, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. The night is young, right? Guys, if you enjoy this content and want to see more of it, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about Silver Silk and more. You can always do any of your shopping at silversilkonline.com. You can check out the video description below for the full list of materials, or you can go to the SilverSilk video tutorial tab over on silversilkonline.com. And there we've actually got a blog with written instructions that you guys can read through and get some tips and tricks out of that. There's illustrations to show you each step, in fact. And we've been working very hard behind the scenes to make sure that we keep up as much as we can with the SilverSilk education part of our company. So with that, I hope you feel creative, invigorated, and have some new ideas. And guys, I also want to give a special shout out to Miss Danielle Wicks of Danielle Wicks Jewelry for providing this amazing project for us to learn from today. And I will see you guys at the next tutorial. Bye.